Opa, rapaziada, voltamos aqui pro jogo da PS Plus de novembro, o Stories, The Path of Destinies. Vamos aqui na pegada do raposão. No jogo anterior aí, no gameplay anterior, eu cheguei em um possível final, e aí ele volta ao jogo do início, foi o pior final possível. Então ele volta o jogo desde o início aí, né, pra conseguir organizar a casa de novo, né? Qual que é a pegada aí, né? O jogo ele vai te dando vários caminhos, várias opções, e você vai trabalhando em cima delas aí pra conseguir montar o sua melhor estratégia, né? Quem tá acompanhando aí pela primeira vez o
The
canal,
moment he landed the Farfarer, Renato had a rare feeling of regret. It's not
tem
too
outros
late,
vídeos.
he thought. He could turn around and sail for Zenobia's island. He frowned. Wait a minute. He didn't want to kill Zenobia, did he? Sure, technically she was the enemy, but they'd been at Sword Fu school together. They'd never been lovers, but somehow they'd been closer. She'd told him every secret about herself. Except the biggest one. That she was the Emperor's daughter. No. Kill Zenobia, whispered the stone. Before it's too late.
Vai ouvindo essa pedrinha, vai. Então, então agora eu tô indo num novo caminho aí, né? Não vou matar a Zenobia lá, que é a amiguinha dele aqui.
What were these poles exactly? Parking meters from the time of the lost gods?
Como é dizendo aí, quem tá pela primeira vez aí no canal, já fica a dica aí, se inscreve aí pra acompanhar os outros vídeos, né? Se gostar desse vídeo aqui, dá aquela curtidinha marota. Eu já falo agora no início porque por ser um gameplay ao vivo, não vou pular ainda não. Meus vídeos normalmente são longos aí, são vídeos de mais de 1 hora. Esse aqui eu vou tentar fazer 1 horinha, até porque o jogo em si, os finais que você vai alcançando não são tão longos. Vamos lá. Yeah. Essa semana aí eu já tô com um vidinho pronto aqui na mão de um joguinho mobile aí do Bully. Vou lançar o vídeo aí pra vocês, talvez amanhã ou sábado. E também
There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time.
tá azedo, não tá tomando banho, filho. E também eu aproveitei aí a promoção da PlayStation Store aí de final de ano. Eu tinha uns pontinhos sobrando lá na minha wallet lá, e eu peguei aí o Bloodborne. Peguei a versão completa, né, com DLC e tudo. Eu tinha um trauma, cara, de Bloodborne. Eu não tava muito a fim de jogar, porque eu tive uma experiência ruim com Dark Souls, cara. Comecei a jogar Dark Souls, tudo, gosto pra caramba de RPG. Quem sabe algum dia eu faço aqui algum gameplay aí
Where did that go to?
de Witcher 3 Ou de algum outro RPG aí. Ah, diacho. Eu quieto. Acabou? Não. É, ô pomba louca. Beleza.
The stone hadn't lied about what it could do for him. With each raven he cut down, he felt a jolt of power flowing into his arm. You're weak, whispered the stone.
Calma aí.
Are you afraid of it? No, don't be ridiculous. It chuckled. But it's unstable. It will poison you so much as carry it. And if you try to use it, it will explode catastrophically. Bernardo did not trust rocks that talked in his head. He went onwards.
Mas, tá ligado que essa pedra não me enrola, né? Ah, não tem nenhum pontinho pra gastar. Pois é, então eu vou tentar fazer aí em breve um gameplay aí de um RPG. Tenho Witcher 3 aqui que eu já zerei. Jogaço, pra mim um dos melhores jogos aí, cara, da atualidade. Fallout 4. Vamos na moral. E Dragon Age Inquisition.
Come on. One fox, no waiting.
Dá licença. Era. Então, se vocês quiserem que eu faça algum gameplay de algum desses jogos, faz primeiro do Bloodborne ou faz Fallout 4, Witcher 3, deixa aí nos comentários. Manda aquela mensaginha bacana. Achei.
As he approached the core, the stone became hysterical. No, it's too much power. We'll rip a hole in space and time. He had a sudden vision of plunging his gauntlet into the core and dying in anguish. That wasn't his vision, was it? The stone had sent him its darkest fears, hadn't it? He had a sudden impulse to do exactly that. He raised his right fist and plunged it into the core. There was a rush of light. He thought he could hear the stone screaming. And then he passed out. When Ronaldo came to, the core was gone. But the Iblis stone was no longer black, but glowing with a blue light. And it was silent. I can't hear you, he sang out. And you? It didn't answer. Ha, he said. He had defeated the demonic gem with the power of his mind. He felt invincible. It was time to attack the Imperial outpost on the Nexus. Take the battle to the enemy. But among the huge crystals, there was also an observatory. A wise man would probably ask the scientists exactly what he had first. How wise was he?
Vamos ver. Bom, então eu consegui purificar a pedra. Aí eu posso ir nesse laboratório, né? Ou direto pro posto avançado. Eu vou nesse laboratório, cara.
As the Farfarer made its way toward the Nexus, Bernardo could see tiny sparks in the blackness that was the Iblis stone. As if somewhere within it, the core was still spitting out energy, which the Iblis stone sucked in hungrily.
You'd think the stone would want this kind of power, wouldn't it? Thought Ronaldo. Well, the scientists would explain it all.
É isso aí. Sai usando as coisas assim que nem louco não, raposão. Vamos ver qual é que é. Pois é, e antes também, talvez de fazer algum desses gameplays aí, assim que eu terminar aqui o Stories, eu vou pro outro jogo aqui da PS Plus do mês aí, né?
See? He'd trusted his gut, and it had worked out. That's what it meant to be a hero. To ignore the naysayers and the odd-makers, and do what you knew was right, and have it turn out to be the right thing. Well, he wasn't worried. Once he got to the observatory, the scientist toads could explain it. Then he could carry the war into the enemy's camp and destroy them all. Oh dear, he was getting a little bloodthirsty, wasn't he? It wasn't his fault. They looked so likable.
Ih, tô achando que não deu muito certo esse negócio não. Essa raposa tá ficando meio sinistra. Vamos lá.
Once you try it, you're hooked.
Já vi tudo, hein? Eu não tenho a espada certa ainda. Entendi. Vamos por aqui. Será que eu já consigo fazer uma espada diferente? O que é aquilo ali? Ah, é um outro elevador. Beleza. Outra hora a gente... ou em um outro gameplay a gente volta lá. Seguir por aqui. Opa! Opa! Beleza. Olha os bichinhos aí. Moleza, hein? Tô ficando forte mesmo. Ah, moleque. Será que vai ganhar algum poder adicional aí com essa... ou só vai virar um vagalume aí com essa luz doida aí em volta? Vamos lá.
Renato had never felt better in his life. Normally, a battle would wear him down and he would need a night's sleep. Now he felt like he could go all night and all day. He felt like people were cheering him on, and he could practically hear their applause as he slew one raven after another.
É, tô achando que esse poder aí vai dar problema. Mas vamos ver qual é que é. Esse barulho de trovão é muito perfeito, cara.
And the Sky Ripper Core. Two artifacts from the time of legends. Renato was becoming a legendary hero, wasn't he? He had enough power to save the rebellion, But he had to understand this power, so he would not
Mais
misuse
alguma
it.
joia? Não. Vamos só... espada. Não. Máximo. Uia. Quase. Não. Não. Preciso achar mais essência. Beleza. Vou com a próxima.
This was much easier than free climbing.
Passou perto, hein?
Now, before I kill you,
Opa!
some people are just liable to explode if you upset them.
Entendi.
He smelled burned fur. His. Bernardo had learned so much. It was time to turn it into something he could use.
Tá ficando fortinho. Vamos ver o que não tem pra cá. Não tem nada. Beleza, vamos lá. Vidinha? Não. Essência, por favor. Quero fazer uma espada nova. Essência de vento. Que é o que muita coisa tem na cabeça. Muita gente tem na cabeça. Opa! Acho que aqui é o laboratório já. Pelo menos parece. Tem umas barracas aqui. Bom, não dá pra pegar nada aqui.
The toads at the observatory measured the stone with their occult devices. I fed it the core of Sky River, explained Renato. No more thieving souls.
But the core is not an unlimited energy source,
said one toad. Another said,
There's a feedback loop, you see, which could overload the stone. The stone doesn't actually feed on souls,
claimed a third.
but on pain of killing another sentient being. If you can truly be at peace with yourself, it would not overload.
This was all very confusing. At peace. Yes, the mountains were peaceful and quiet, but he now had the power to turn the tides. He should report to the Rebellion Council and prepare for the decisive battle.
E agora? Encontrar paz para manter a pedra estável ou ir pro pau? Vamos pelo óbvio, né?
The one thing he
Manter a
understood
paz.
from all the toad arguments. Maybe the stone did not feed on blood, or souls, or rage. It fed on empathy. It fed on the pain he felt when he put an end to another being's existence. Even if that other being was a raven intent on killing him. If he could find peace, then he could use the power of the Iblis stone without being taken over by its evil. The mountains. He would go to the mountains. He could find peace there.
Ou não, né? Se eu for lá só pra meditar, acabou o jogo, velho. Provavelmente ele vai achar lá umas pomba louca aí pra matar. Talvez aí mais algum personagem aí pra dar sequência na história.
Unfortunately, the mountains were not empty. There were ravens everywhere. No matter. He had to fight, yes, but he didn't have to be angry. Parry, dodge, slash, and breathe. Yes, focus on the rhythm, the dance of it, not on the blood or the raven's core as they died. Ah, it was working. He wasn't feeling those dark jolts of eldritch energy. He wasn't feeding the Iblis stone.
Sei não, hein. Que isso? Nada.
Renata wondered if his future self had commissioned these poles.
Baúzito. O cara vem pra montanha pra ter paz e quebra mais pau ainda. Isso é louco, mano.
Since what? Renata really liked the sound the sword made in the air.
Beleza. Tá ficando fácil, hein?
He was practically sure he'd find something useful in one of these things.
Não, só que não. Vamos lá. Quebrar vasos é uma arte desde God of War, mano. Ali tem uma porta, ali tem um elevador. Vamos na porta? Não. Só da espada de água, vento, sei lá. E agora? Nesse elevador ou no outro? Que dúvida cruel. Vamos nesse aqui.
Good thing Renato didn't have vertigo.
Ah, era o outro. Drags. Dá pra voltar? Não.
The stone was still silent. His mind was his own, and his heart too. He bore them no ill will, these ravens. They were doing their job. They were expressing their nature. Dance, whirl, parry, jab, and breathe. It was all so simple, wasn't it? But
No.
something was missing. He didn't feel truly at peace. Wait. Wasn't this near where Calaveras lived? The sage would help him figure it all out. Bernardo's paws were getting numb. Calaveras really didn't want company, did he?
Nossa. O cara mora na cobertura, pô. Ê, garoto. Bom. Aqui tá de boa. Em ordem. Epa. Eita. Tá caindo tudo.
What was the point of this gate? Did they think no one would notice the lever?
Não entendi.
The Iblis Stone, silenced by the Sky Ripper's core, had given Renato enough power to challenge the Imperial fleet. But what Renato was seeking was inner peace. The rebellion was on the verge of extinction, but it would have to wait.
Beleza. Tá ruim de item aqui, hein? Vamos liberar uns itens bons aí, pô. Opa. Habilidadezinha. Correr. A vida tá no máximo. Aumentar o dano na defesa. E aí, tiozão?
At the end of the mountain path, he found the wise Calaveras in his workshop. Do you fix souls or only artifacts? He asked the sage.
Does your soul need fixing?
Asked the sage. I've been killing a lot of ravens lately. He told the sage.
You're a fox,
Said Calaveras.
and to kill birds is part of your nature. Take joy in it. I mean, I might as well worry about eating flies. Would you like a fly?
It was true. That's what he had forgotten. The joy. Now he was ready for the final battle. The Farfarer cut through the clouds. The air had never felt so sweet since he was a child. There it was. The dreaded Imperial fleet. He could smell wet hemp ropes ahead. Wood and tar and ravens.
Corda de cânhamo. Eita, raposa maconheira.
He was ready. He was ready.
Mano, ele subiu todo esse caminho pro sapo mandar ele comer mosca, velho. Cê é louco. Vamos lá.
Renato had it all squared away in his head. He would kill the Emperor. Isengrim III had begun well, but he had gone mad. He was trying to invoke the lost gods by means of dark, blasphemous rituals. That was a secret. But the victims had spoken to Renato. The ghosts had spoken. No. No anger. Bernardo could not afford anger. It was empowering the crystal in his sword. That made him stronger, but it clouded his mind. He would not be a hero. A hero strives. Bernardo would just be one with everything. The Emperor would die, and the wheel would turn, and all would be restored without rancor, without sorrow, without pain.
E olha aqui. O que vai? Um baúzinho. Coisas boas. Esse de água tenho 4. Eu acho que eram 7, se não me engano. Pra fazer a espada boa.
The portal led right into the middle of the fleet. There was a glaring weakness in the defense.
Beleza. Vai pro quebra-pau agora, moleque.
Once, he'd found a Superman issue #1 in mint condition in a jar he'd broken. He planned to keep breaking things until he had the whole series.
Cara, alguém aí é fã de Superman, hein?
He was sort of yanking his own chain, wasn't he?
Ah, moleque. Cadê a essência, rapaz? Libera as essências aí, bicho. Eu juro que ainda não entendi o que é isso. Esses negocinho que acende aí.
Kill the fox! Caught the ravens. Nobody said they were original.
Moleque, quase passando de nível de novo. Saco.
Said Bernardo, but he couldn't hear his enemy's answer.
Tudo limpo. Vamos que vamos. vazar. Caramba, não acaba nunca.
But the more he thought about it, and he had so much more time to think about it now that he was not worrying about the battle, killing the Emperor would not change anything. Another would take his place. Perhaps Zenobia. Perhaps the Speaker of the Rebel Council, and power would corrupt them too, and death would make grief. Grief would lead to hatred. He must lead by example. Reject the violence. Reject the desire to create violence. But how?
Vamos lá. Opa. Minério tem até umas horas, né? Essência aí.
Oh, this really didn't have much in the way of safety features, did it?
Depois você pega o esquema. O cara com escudo, você joga outro em cima dele. O mago aí ataca ele rápido pra não dar muito tempo dele ficar te atacando com essa putaria aí. E o explosivo, você ataca e sai de perto pra ele não explodir e te acertar. Tentar atacar ele quando tiverem outros em volta pra ele dar dano nos outros. Facinho, molezinha.
Soon he'd confront the Emperor. Funny that this whole war had come about because the Emperor feared death. And now it was coming for him. There was some sort of lesson there, wasn't there?
Isso. Isso é novo? Ah, tá. Tô arrepiando aqui, hein? Opa! Isso é nova, hein? Tudo em ordem aqui. Beleza. Vamos lá.
Finally, he came to the Emperor's ship. The path behind him was strewn with dead ravens. The path to enlightenment. His mistake, he realized, was trying to change the world. The world would spin and the wheel would revolve whether he strove against it or not. What he had to do was nothing. He had attained enlightenment. He sat down, adopted a full lotus position, and began to meditate. And all around him, the warriors stopped fighting too. They knew. They could feel his enlightenment. They gave up fighting, dropped their weapons, and became his disciples.
Ô, louco.
No, just kidding. The nearest raven stabbed him with a sword and then chopped off his head. I might not have thought this through properly. Thought Renado's head as it rolled around the deck and died. Renato stared at the book. He was still alive. Again. And still only flying away from burning Ubar. Had he lived that adventure? Or only dreamt it? Had he really died? It felt so real, not like a dream at all.
And he'd lost again. Oh, he hated that.
Caramba. Bom,
He
cada
had
cartinha é
made different
final, né?
choices. And he'd lost in a different way. It was the book, wasn't it? Oracles showed you your destiny. But this was showing him different ways he could die miserably. Thanks a bunch, book, he thought. But these were destinies that he did not have to fulfill. But he'd learn another true thing. The Iblis Stone was evil. It would try to corrupt anyone who used it.
Caramba, hein?
But that meant there must be a destiny where he survived and won, right? Otherwise, what was the point? And with that, the book's pages fluttered back once more to the beginning, and the clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Or so a scholar in the mountains had told him. Surely the weapon that banished the lost gods could defeat the Emperor. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis Stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it. To take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lupino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lupino had betrayed the rebellion. But could Renato really leave an old friend to the Ravens?
Eu vou no Sky Reaper. Eu já fiz esse, já fui por esse lado, então vamos por aqui.
Every child knew about the Sky Ripper. The Transcendent Emperor had buried its pieces. What could have brought them to light? This Emperor, Isengrim III, had once been kind, but he'd gone mad. And now he was conducting secret, obscene rituals to bring back the lost gods. Had he, somehow, summoned the long-lost components of the legendary weapon out of the deep places of the earth? It was more than Renato could fathom. But if he could find a legendary weapon, he would use it.
Beleza, vamos que vamos. Pô, pelo que eu vi ali, o imperador é um sapo. E a filha é uma gata? Como isso?
As he set foot on the island, Renato couldn't help feeling a bit curious. Was Lupino still waiting to be rescued?
Não.
No. He was probably drinking champagne with the ravens. Did ravens drink champagne? Did rabbits? Renato felt oddly thirsty, come to think of it. Why had he chosen the Sky Ripper?
Renato never made plans that required constant vigilance. He was a hero. He didn't think too much. He just went with his gut and hoped it all worked out. The Sky Ripper was a long shot. He'd have to devote himself to it. No side journeys, no rescuing old friends. That was against his nature. Could he stick with it?
Opa, agora sim. Agora eu tô achando umas essências.
This chest smelled kind of funky. He hoped he didn't get it in his clothes.
Vamos ver o que tem pra cá. Mais essências, por favor. Não. Pra cá, talvez. Yeah. Ô louco, agora achei essência pra caramba. 7 de água, 5 de fogo e 10. A roxa é o que mesmo? Nem lembro. Vamos ver aqui.
A crafting bench. Renato wondered what he could make with it.
Finalmente. Fogo ainda não. É vento, né? Ah, finalmente. Agora eu tenho uma de água. Uma de fogo. Vamos brincar um pouco com essa de água aqui então. O que ela faz? O ataque? Antes de ir por aí, oxe, ele tá aqui.
He felt like Tarzan.
Mais minério. Só minério? Ah, vai se lascar, né? Ah, esse bichinho chato. Mano, ele tira muito dano, cara.
Who are you looking at? All right, no one.
Eita.
The people who had built this castle, did they even know what monstrous weapon lay hidden within their walls? The Sky Ripper could destroy anything it touched, or so the legend said. As the Transcendent Emperor had fought the lost gods, thousands had died. But Renato had been through wars. The only merciful war was a short one. Smashing things was fun.
Lógico que é. Dois pontinhos. Mais um de velocidade. Eu vou evoluir tudo, né? Então aí depois eu vou aqui pros de baixo. Que isso? Ah, para arrancar o escudo já direto. Legal. Não? Não. Vamos por aqui primeiro. Ah, agora eu tenho espada de água. Que fanfarrão, né? Beleza, hein? Olha. Rapaz, aí é vida.
You didn't find those every day.
Beleza. Acho que eu já consigo fazer adventos também, hein? Ah, seu besta! Não acredito que você fez isso. Quase que eu morri. Beleza. Vamos por aqui. Ah, não tenho ainda a espada. Saco. Tô quase. Falta pouco. Ixi. Ixi, rapaz.
Hey, why don't you guys fight in groups?
É.
Oh, I know. Because there's no I in team.
Nossa, meu HP, cara. Não morri por muito pouco. Esses bichinhos são muito chatos, cara. Passa mais um aqui, passa. Mais um. Não acaba nunca. Agora eu acho que é o último. Venha. Pronto. Tudo limpo, tudo em ordem. Não tem nada aqui. Vamos lá. Ah, idiota.
That is a very cool sword, thought Renata. No, seriously. He couldn't feel his paw anymore.
Que isso? Fácil, né? Molezinha. Ué, não é de fogo? Ah, bom.
The new pathway made Renato curious.
Ah, vai morreu, morreu. Meu Deus. Onde que era o ponto de verificação? Pelo menos era perto. Menos male. Vamos lá. Não morre dessa vez, meus filhos. Ah, agora eu gostei desse poder. Pega, pega. Boa, garoto. Aí sim.
Renato had once invested in a jewel store, but it lost money because someone kept robbing it. Twist. That had been his mistake before, thinking he could win a battle of wills with an ancient evil all by himself.
Opa. Caramba, que fase boa pra achar essência.
Or braver. Or something.
Não tem pra cá. Ah, tá. Beleza. Ah, agora sim. Ah, não. Não é no altar, é na mesa, ó. É o Sky Reaper.
There it was. Sky Ripper's armature. The stuff that dreams are made of. Engineers' dreams, anyway.
The device was intricate. No one alive had the skill to make a thing like it. How was it part of a weapon at all? He'd have to ask a scientist. But first, he'd get the second piece. Sky Ripper had a heart. A core that had come to rest on the next island. Well, There was another island he could reach. Zenobia had just invaded it with her father's Raven battalions. She must be encamped there still. But fighting Zenobia now, that made no sense at all. He'd already sacrificed one friend to get this armature, was it? He didn't need to hurry to face her. She would find him.
É. Eu vou deixar ela pro final ainda. Eu vou atrás do núcleo.
It was a no-brainer. He'd sacrificed his old friend Lapino to get the armature. And the armature was useless by itself, only a series of coils and wheels. War demanded sacrifices, and he would make more before the end. He would have to choose the greatest good, no matter how much it cost him. Zenobia. Well, he would see her sooner or later, across a battlefield or a sword's point before all this was over. He was sure of that. The power was in the core. Obviously, he had to get the core.
Vamos lá.
He looked up at the old trees around him. They were so big and so old. They'd been there before he was born, and they'd be there after he'd passed into
Agora o
legend.
negócio segue ele.
Was he confronting his own unimportance? What had got into him? He was no philosopher. Anyway, who cares? He was plenty important. He was a hero, and soon he'd prove it.
Ah, moleque. Por que que tá com essa exclamação? Não entendi. Bom. Ah, agora eu tenho todas as espadas. Beleza, hein? Que isso? Tá.
You guys ever eat fresh food? You don't smell like it.
Opa! Pausei sem querer. Bem mais fácil a vida assim, hein? Vamos recuperar HP.
Magical jewel. Bernardo couldn't wait to find a workbench.
Caramba, não deu tempo. Será que acertei mais de um ataque nele? Vamos lá. Tá pego aqui. Pera. Aí você já pegou? Cadê a workbench lá? Mesinha de trabalho. Ah, não. Vamos aqui. Beleza. Não dá pra melhorar mais nenhuma espada por enquanto. De fogo dá, é só achar o minério, né? Então vamos lá. Mas só de já ter as 4 já facilita a vida, viu? Beleza. E agora? Subir, né?
Bernardo, smash!
Nada.
There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time. He hadn't noticed that path before.
You almost never saw wild gogglers together like this. The toads had to train them not to peck each other to death. So these had to be imperial gogglers. That meant ravens were up ahead. The platform used a hybrid propulsion system fueled by anti-gravity and wishful thinking.
Caramba, como eu ganho troféu nesse jogo. É um atrás do outro. Oh, belezinha do pai. Baúzão, é assim que eu gosto.
This stone was incredibly valuable. Bernardo could sense it. Also, it still had its price tag.
Ah, meu Deus.
There were fewer and fewer trees. There were only these huge crystalline growths. Had those been here before?
Vou voltar
He
por
no
ali
longer
antes.
heard birds except for the feverish cawing of the ravens when they attacked. He couldn't smell the small animals of the forest. The mice and rabbits. Where had they gone? And he was getting hungry too. This was an unhealthy place to be. Renato
Wow.
hated gogglers, but it freaked him out to cut them.
Caramba. Como é que eu acerto isso aí? Não acerto? Só deixa tonto? Bom, vamos voltar pra
He wished there were more pylons he could use the hook on. He really needed to construct additional pylons.
Vamos recuperar um pouquinho de HP. Tá muito baixo. Esse orbe aí podia fazer alguma coisa, né? Essa armadura. Pra atacar os caras também, sei lá, né?
Renato checked to make sure his sword was still working. Yep.
Pra cá. Pra lá tem alguma coisa e pra cá tem o quê? Provavelmente um baúzinho pra cá.
Beat Renato at hockey.
Beleza. Passei de nível. Caramba, tô achando muita coisa agora. Vasinho pra quebrar.
Of course there was a puzzle. You couldn't expect the transcendent Emperor to bury a god's eye in a leather sack where anyone could pick it up.
Nada. Passa até agora. Vamos lá. Ah, tem um tempo. Vai rápido. Rápido.
Renato felt like he was bursting with knowledge. But what kind?
Legal. Metade da massa. Metal Vapor.
Every day he
Esta
was getting
vida.
better and better.
Mother
Beleza,
didn't
hein?
wave his sword around at home. He guessed he was still compensating for that.
E agora? É o núcleo.
The 20-sided core made him feel physically sick. Once he had sneaked into a temple of the dark arts and he hadn't liked what he smelt and saw there. This felt like that. As quick as he could, he wrangled the icosahedron into the armature. The wheels began to spin, then glow. The sick feeling quickly spun away. Now he only felt sad. He had lost good friends for this war apparatus. Maybe Lapino wasn't such a good friend.
Você acha?
That made him feel better. He carried his prize back to the Farfarer. Now, he had to make his next move. There was a key Imperial outpost on the Nexus. If this really was some sort of super weapon, he could use it to wreak havoc on the enemy. And if it wasn't, well, better to know that before the final battle. But maybe he should show it to some scientists first. There was an observatory on the Nexus. Maybe he should go there before he fired it.
Eu vou de novo no cientista, só que dessa vez levando a armadura.
Of course. If you've just assembled a weapon out of legend that can exile gods from the world, you'd want to have a scientist or two look at it. And even if they disagreed and you had time, you could ask Calaveras himself. Yes, the observatory would be his objective.
Vamos lá. Vamos ver o que a gente consegue fazer por lá, né? Os caras ensinam a usar esse trem doido aí. De repente ele fica mais forte. Eu acho que ainda esse final ainda vai ser um desses ruins, né? Mas vamos ver qual é que é.
Why had the parts of the Sky Ripper only surfaced now, thousands of years after the Transcendent Emperor had dismantled it? The mad Emperor Isengrim had performed terrible, bloodthirsty rituals to invoke the lost gods. Was that why these ancient artifacts were rising out of the ground? How perfect, then, that the Sky Ripper would reappear to be his destruction.
Vamos lá.
Sometimes, at home, he'd wave his sword around for hours.
Beleza. Vem pra cá. Minha memória é uma porcaria, senão eu lembraria de todos os caminhos que eu fiz.
Don't look down, he thought.
Que eu não pude acessar os baús certos, né? Agora eu vou conseguir.
Of all the artisans he was creating employment for. Truly, he was a job creator.
Como não? Não é essa? Nem essa? É essa. Ah, moleque. Tem um baúzinho ali. Aqui. Essa escadaria aqui é um milagre da engenharia, porque ela não tem apoio. Beleza. Combo Breaker.
Once, Renato had been to a dungeon where all the chests were locked. It was awful.
Que isso? Evangelho do Imperador. Ali é o baú. Aqui não tem nada. Só voltar por lá, né? Por aqui. Certo. Agora sim. Agora é subir. Opa! Opa! Beleza. Vamos encher de vez? Beleza. Agora sim.
The mysterious sword from the east made you so fast you could catch a fly with your chopsticks. If that's what you really wanted.
Voltei a acertar a mão, hein? Tava apanhando muito, agora tô manjando os Paranauê de novo.
A legendary weapon was exactly what the rebellion needed. They were outnumbered. The once kind emperor had become a tyrant. But his ravens stayed loyal, for he fed them his victims, and the other animals were too frightened to rebel. Renato shuddered at what the emperor was trying to do. To bring back the lost gods, the Black Harvest, the Black Sun? No. He would stop that toad, no matter what the risk.
Sai. Oxi, cadê o chão? Bugou? Tá de brincadeira.
Renato had found his game changer. He would ignore all distractions, focus on the Sky River.
Eita ferro. Cadê o chão, cara? Deu uma bugadinha.
These platforms were great. Renato wanted one for his house.
Ai, caramba.
You shall not pass.
Agora sim. Beleza? Vinhordes. E agora? Agora vamos por aqui. Pega o baúzinho.
Renato had heard stories of a dungeon where chests were filled with potions and weapons. Fairy tales.
Vamos lá. Chegamos no sapão de novo. E aí, galerinha?
Renato was thrilled. The scientists seemed to think he'd put the Sky Ripper together right. But one toad was worried.
Yeah, the Sky Ripper could tear a hole in existence itself. There are invisible strings that tie the universe together. If the Sky Ripper cut one, the hole would widen and widen until our whole existence fell into it.
Another toad sighed. Irving still believes in string theory.
At least go see Calaveras.
Yeah, said the worried toad.
He knows more than anyone else has forgotten about the Transcendent Emperor.
If anyone could tell him how to use this weapon safely, it would be Calaveras. It was he who had told Renato how to find it in the first place. But maybe he had to give up on using it as a weapon. Maybe he had to go to the secret rebel base and ask the generals there what he could do with a weapon that he dared not use.
Bom, vamos aqui pelo Calaveras de novo.
Well, he should have known he'd have to consult Calaveras again. The scientists at the observatory were smart enough. But what did they know of the Transcendent Emperor? He hoped it wouldn't delay him too long. The rebels had scheduled the final battle soon. Every day they delayed risked the exposure of the secret base. And some soldiers were already drifting back to their homes and families. Calaveras would fix the Sky Ripper for him. And then he would win the final battle.
Isso aí. Ou não. Ou vai morrer de novo. É isso, pessoal. Eu não vou terminar ainda. Não vou dar continuidade nesse final aqui. Provavelmente ele não é o definitivo, né? Eu já vi pelo esquema ali que eu tenho que fazer mais um final ali, indo atrás da Toelina.
Maybe it was the cold. But after a few steps, Renato's optimism started to slump.
What if Calaveras couldn't help?
Então,
Did Renato dare use the Sky Ripper? Oh, he hated that he had chosen this path. It was so much simpler to rescue friends and attack enemies. Even if some of those friends were more trouble than his enemies, some of those enemies had been friends before and might be lovers after. No, okay, it wasn't all that much simpler, no. Physics made his brain hurt. That, at least he was sure of.
então eu vou parando por aqui.
He'd once met a pirate captain.
Depois eu vou continuar daqui de onde eu parei, para fazer aí, eu acredito que mais 2 finais que faltam, né? Que é esse final aqui da armadura. Depois tem um final que vai ser mais específico aí sobre a princesa aí, a coelhinha. E aí a gente finalmente deve chegar no finalzão definitivo do jogo, né? Pô, reforçando o que eu falei no início. Você curtiu? Dá aquela curtidinha no vídeo. Se inscreve no canal. O canal tá começando, preciso de ajuda de vocês aí pra sobreviver. Eu faço isso só pela zoeira. E eu espero aí colocar mais vídeos bacanas em breve aí pra todo mundo. Beleza, pessoal? Se vocês quiserem também dar sugestão de algum jogo pra fazer gameplay ao vivo, é só mandar aí nos comentários. Tá certo? É isso.
Yeah, Calaveras would help. He would make Renato feel better about using the Sky Ripper. And then Renato wouldn't have to worry about
fazer mais essa briguinha aqui antes. Eita! Sai de acho. Foi por pouco, hein? Opa, achei uma portinha nova aqui.
Couldn't they
Antes
put
de
in an
encerrar,
elevator?
vamos ver o que
Or a
tem.
giant eagle? Or something?
Vamos ver. Tem um. Ah, saco. Ufa. Ah, isso aí, ó. Baúzão. Passei de
Boy,
nível.
someone has spent a lot of money for a graduation present.
E é isso, pessoal. Valeu aí. E até uma próxima.